Okay, we are recording.
Okay, and I actually haven't timed this, so I'm just going to speak for a bit and then see how it goes, and just be pretty informal. So thank you all for inviting me and inviting Sarah to talk about the vigil. It's really great to have an opportunity to. It was actually really great to have an opportunity to sit down and kind of try to pull it all together, because it's been quite an amazing event. And today is actually the 2 month anniversary. We started on June 2nd. So we've completed 9 weeks. Tomorrow would be the beginning of the 10th week, will be the beginning of the 10th week. And, a lot has happened during that time. I think, we've gone through a lot of changes too. And so it was, for me, it was very useful actually to sit down and just pull it together and think about, what happens next. So just in terms of the whole history and chronology of it, Monday, Memorial Day, May 25th, was the day that George Floyd was murdered. And immediately there were protests all across the country, including Philadelphia. And it was really, kind of a week of upheaval. And I say that in a good way. And so we at USG had our town hall on Sunday, the following Sunday, so less than a week later, on May 31st. And it was an opportunity for all of us to listen and to share our thoughts. And I thought it was really excellent, and it was great that we had that. Um, my contribution to at the town hall was to say that I felt like we needed to have some kind of visible presence to show support for the Black Lives Matter movement that was going on. That you know, I didn't say all this, but in the background, I was thinking, it's very nice, to have these town halls or people to be having discussions or whatever, but that there was something major going on. A man had been murdered before our eyes, and that, not that this was the first time, but it was really a moment. And I felt that we had to be visibly in support, whatever communities we were in, whether it was church or wherever. And at that meeting, Sarah also said, "Yeah, I like what Mary said," and but nothing really kind of followed from that at that meeting anyway. But Sarah texted me later and said, "If you ever want to go out, I'll go out with you." And I thought, okay. And she did text me on the following Tuesday, June 2nd. This is how movements are born. This is, it's not like this huge cataclysm. It's like, okay, you want to go out? You want to go out? Yeah. So Sarah texted me on Tuesday, June 2nd, and said, "Do you want to go out this afternoon?" And then by out meaning just to go out on the driveway with our signs. And I said, sure. So we went out. It was just the two of us. We didn't, and I don't think we announced it to anyone at that point, or maybe, I mean, but the following day at least, we were in touch with Kent, because we felt like we wanted this to be a church event, and we certainly wanted to be able to use the church communications vehicles to get the word out. So that it took a little bit of time. It felt like a little bit of time. It was only probably one day before we got the okay. And he was actually very supportive and said the church leadership would be honored to do this. Um, but there, and we agreed to certain guidelines. One, that there would always someone there each day who would be charged with monitoring what was going on. Not that we were going to be doing anything bad, but at that point, I mean, things were really kind of in flux. I mean, all kinds of unknown people were showing up at protests, causing trouble. There were vigilantes in some parts of the Philadelphia coming out with bats, and so there was some concern. So that was an important part of it. We also agreed that we would all wear masks, and that we would maintain social distancing, and that we would be, well, this sort of came a little bit later, but practice safety in terms of the street. Because people are very eager to practically be in Lincoln Drive with their signs. And we all know how crazy Lincoln Drive is and how dangerous it is. So now we try to get people to just stay on the sidewalk and not even go into that grassy area, because it's all too easy for a car to swerve and jump the curb, or people also, especially on days when we've had a lot of people, cross the street, cross Lincoln Drive, and which makes me extremely nervous. We have a lot of elderly people who come, um, and there have been moments where I felt like my heart was in my throat, and you know, I and other people, Sarah and a couple of other people who've been kind of taking on that role, have tried to keep people from doing it, but you know, we're not going to be, you know, authoritarians there. And if people want to, you can't really physically stop them. You know, they're not children. So these are the guidelines that we agreed to. And whenever anyone would come to the vigil, we would communicate that to people that this was the conditions on which, you know, we were doing this. We also I called the civil affairs uh, section of the 14th Police District, just to let them know we were going to be there. And I know from my history of organizing things, this is always a good thing to do, just so they know you're there. And also, if anyone came and wanted to cause trouble for us, you know, we could, you know, they would know that, you know, we were there and what we were doing. So that first week, a few people, first day it was me and Sarah. Then a few other people showed up. I think Barbara, you were one of the early people who were out there once with me and Sarah. Then it started being announced. I remember the first week it was announced in the communicator. I sent a note to the ERC, which Parvati shared. And so things started moving. So in the first week, I think, you know, we probably had, by the end of the week, we had, you know, 6 people at most on any day. But then things started moving. On Monday of the second week, I arrived just before 5, and there were already a few people there. But importantly, there were about 6 police cars, which was, you know, very unusual. And I thought, what's going on here? And I was like, oh, it's us. They're here for us. And so there were literally like 6 squad cars, a whole bunch of uniformed police people, people who were from civil affairs who were not uniformed, a bunch of them, you know, and we explained what was happening, and they knew, and you know, they really were not bothering us at all or interfering, and they made that clear that they're not there to interfere. But there were a bunch who stayed the whole time. They were blocking the view from the cars from the to the sidewalk. So I asked them to move, and they actually did, which was very nice. So and then, you know, since that time, in the first few weeks, they would show up every once in a while, but lately they haven't been showing up at all. So it has not been a problem in terms of police bothering us. So more people started coming. A big thing that happened that second week is we got the signs, which Triva graciously ordered. And it really made a big difference in terms of visibility to have the uniformity of legible signs. And I think it really kind of bumped everything up a notch to have the signs. We also started getting joined. So in the beginning, it was mainly church people and, you know, kind of people who are in our networks. But then the neighbors started coming out, and like every once in a while, somebody said, "God, aren't they bothered by, you know, anybody said anything about all this honking?" Because people honk nonstop. I mean, it's a very energizing and joyous experience, but it's very loud. And so, you know, people always ask, don't the neighbors mind? But actually, neighbors started coming out who'd heard the honking, and they came out to see what was going on, and they started joining us. The woman Lauren, who's a public defender, who comes out regularly, and then, you know, her sister and her sister's family started coming out. So in the second week, I guess this was in the second week, we started getting really big groups of people. On Wednesday, the 10th, we had 25 people. The following day, we had 35 people. That was kind of our peak attendance. And it was people from the church, from the neighborhood. We had a rabbi from Mishkan Shalom come. It was mainly white people, but almost always there was several Black people who were on the vigil. And then we also started getting the word out. We had created the event page on Facebook, And it also, of course, went out with all the USG communications. People on the vigil started making suggestions about where it could be shared. So it's been shared in multiple places on Facebook and the Mount Airy page, on Nextdoor. There's a phillyprotest.com site that lists all the local protests. So we've been in there pretty much every week. So word started getting out more broadly, and it was mainly people from the neighborhood who were coming, but we did start getting people from further afield, from Cheltenham and Warminster and a few other places, Northeast Philly, some church people from Harleysville. A woman drove from Burlington, New Jersey, just to come to the vigil. Wow. So it started getting to be well known. Third week, we got the new banner, which was really exciting. The banner that's hanging there now, and again, a new level of visibility. In the third week, an interesting thing happened where we were offered pizza. And this was, people wanted to support what we were doing in whatever way they could. So there's a pizza parlor, it's called Jules Thin Crust Pizza, who contacted us and said, we would like to bring you pizza. And I thought, great, pizza. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, oh, this could be logistically difficult in many ways. And I also then talked to Kent about it. And I mean, I didn't even think of it at first, but it was a COVID issue. And how are we going to distribute food? And so it got referred to the COVID committee of the church, was discussed. And in the end, we thanked them profusely, but decided it would really be too logistically difficult. And, even the idea of standing with signs eating pizza just seemed kind of weird. We were going to do it at the end when people left, but we still felt like it was going to be a little bit difficult. We also got several filmmakers and journalists came who were interviewing people and videotaping us and stuff. I don't know, where and when these things will show up, but they may well at some point. But it was exciting to have that. We also have a guy on the vigil who comes regularly who's very mathematically inclined, and he surprised me one day and said, well, a lot of cars are going by, and I've been counting the cars, and 300 cars go by in 10 minutes. So that turns out to be something like close to 2,000 cars an hour, which, it was kind of useful, I thought, to have that, that information. There have been a lot of emotional moments of different sorts, mainly, people honking, giving us the power fist, peace sign, yelling, thank you, etc. And this week, one of the most poignant moments, people often stop and take photos and videos of us too. So a woman, African-American woman, stopped on the other side, was sitting in her car, thank you, videotaping us, etc. And then she just stopped, and I can't have a hard time saying this without crying, but anyway, she stopped, she put her head in her hands and was just sobbing. And, all of us who saw this, of course, behind our masks are sobbing too, because we felt like it was such a moment of, I don't know, it was so poignant. And I just felt like, yeah, we're doing the right thing here. I don't want to go necessarily week by week what happened, but, just this is the time where we're getting 10 to 25 people a week. People are coming from different religious organizations. We've had people come from Green Street Friends, Germantown Friends, Chestnut Hill Friends, First United Methodist of Germantown. A man came a number of times who's with the Salvation Army, as well as, and I mentioned the rabbi, and as well as other places. And then the weather got very hot, so we had to cancel. Although before that, when it was very hot, people would still be coming out. But there were several days where it was heat emergency, and it just felt a little dangerous. And then there was thunderstorms. So we had 1 week where we canceled 3 days. And then this past week is extremely hot again. No heat advisories was issued, so we didn't cancel. And the numbers are a little low, but still we had like 8 to 12 people this week. We had a new person join us, a young man, white man from Northeast Philly, who's a Marine, who just got out of the Marines, who just got out of Camp Lejeune, and really felt like it was important for me to, or for him to be there. Also this week we marked the death of John Lewis, and I made a sign for that and held that because we wanted to acknowledge that. As I said, we've had like overwhelmingly positive response from day one. I mean, we could barely, we're walking down the driveway, people are already honking. A lot of times people would just yell, thank you, thank you. And I remember Sarah at one point said to me, what do you say when people say thank you? I said, well, I'm not going to say you're welcome. I usually say, because I'm not like, it's not like, I'm doing this, we're doing this for someone. I mean, we're all in it together. And that's what I really feel when we're there. It's like an exchange between us, the vigil standers, and the motorists. And so I usually say thank you, or thank you, without saying you. People often pull over, hopefully safely. Again, I'm always concerned about that. People pull over, they want to buy signs. They want to photograph us, and sometimes they just want to talk. And this is mainly African American people who pull over and want to talk to us. And always, people want to share their stories. It can be very moving. We have continually new people coming out, even in the very hot weather, as I said. And we've had very, very little, like 0.1% negative response, I would say. And the negative response is usually in the forms of, a white person, usually male, driving by and screaming "All Lives Matter" at us. And we haven't had any threat of violence or anything like that. I mean, I worry sometimes they slow down and start screaming, but even that's very, very rare. And a lot of times, like a whole day will go by, and we won't have any negativity. Or sometimes people will give us the finger, but very, very rarely. And another positive thing is that some of the people who have been coming to the vigils are thinking about starting their own vigils. This woman who lives in Chestnut Hill, who was coming, and she has been talking with some of her friends about starting one up there, and called me this week or last week to get some advice. And there's some other things going on too. So I just to summarize, I would say I think it's been extremely worthwhile and effective, and certainly satisfying for those of us who've been participating. I think it's also created a greater presence for USG in the community, and in particular in relation to racial justice. People often who are not church members will ask about the church, want to know, what kind of church this is, what time's your service, just basic stuff. People seem to, when we started, Sarah, we had no intention of going forever, but it just kind of happened, and people want to come and want to continue. So, but I have been thinking about, next steps, and I feel like, that I, would want to think about, maybe specific initiatives we want to support, policy, legislative, or whatever. And this past week, I was on a statewide meeting called Activism and Protest Across Pennsylvania, where one of the things I learned was that there have been, just from the very end of May to the end of June, there were protests in 230 communities in Pennsylvania alone. And I was blown away. I mean, they showed a map, and it was like everywhere, the entire state. And they had young people. 3 of the speakers, there were 3 organizers from places I had never heard of. Milton, Pennsylvania, I have no idea what this is, a 24-year-old Latino man. Somebody from, I think, Clearfield, a woman who couldn't have been more than 20. and then someone from Wilkes-Barre. And so I think it's important to know how much is going on, even in our own state, you know, in these places where, you know, hardly even have any Black community. So to be in touch with others who are doing this is, I think, really important. So I'll end there. And maybe Sarah can say some things, and then I can play the slideshow.
Thanks, Mary. You said everything. It was for me too. It was a shock that it went on so long. And thank you to Triva for donating the signs. And Mary did most of the organizing. And one other thing is that people have stopped to buy the Black Lives Matter signs with the yard supports, the yard stands, which I think is great. And then we've seen it like around the area of the city, the signs that come from it. So it's been an amazing experience, and I'm glad that we're able to do it. And thanks, Mary, because I texted her and said, let's go out, and then she really did the rest. So thank you. I was like, okay, here we are. And then she's like, we're going to be organized about this. And I was like, okay.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I'm not sure that I'm sure I would not have gone out if you had not gone out. And also, I know you got sick at the beginning. And so, I mean, I know you couldn't be there as much, but even just, you know, when you were there, it was a big support. Or a lot of times I would text Sarah and say, well, what do you think about this idea? Or what do you think about that idea? And when you're organizing, you really need to have like a few people that you can turn to for advice and just as a sounding board. And, you know, it really helps. I thank you for also saying the thing about the sign, because I want to emphasize again how important the signs have been, and that they are. Every time I drive home from the vigil, I see them all over the place, because people who are coming are, you know, in our neighborhood, and or who drive by and buy one are in our neighborhood. And Triva bought the first batch, as everyone knows, and, you know, said pay it forward, which was wonderful. We always had a jar out. In fact, I have it here. We have to do the calculations for this week, our donations jar. And we always had a sign out saying, you know, feel free to take a sign, but if you'd like to make a donation, etc. And many people did. But after the first batch, it was really, we needed more. I mean, we went through them pretty quickly. So it was not sustainable to continue that. So we now like ask people for a $10 donation. The price also went up between the different orders. So mainly people do, or sometimes somebody will say, I've only got $5, but, you know, I figure if somebody really wants a sign, $5 usually. And so, you know, we now have collected over $400 for the second batch, and I don't think we're even halfway through the second box. So yeah, so that.
Do you think people aren't taking signs because they're $10, Mary?
No, okay. I don't.
Great.
No, not at all. And we also have a little box inside the church next to the signs box for people who are, you know, happen to be in and out of the church. And I collect from that periodically. And there have been, I think, maybe $40, $50 came in that way. Because people do want to support, you know, I mean, it's a way of showing respect and support for what's happening. And who knows, we may need to buy a third box.
Happy to.
So should we do the slideshow and then questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is the first time I've done screen share and slideshow, so hopefully this will work. Oops. I want to press, you know, of course I did this before. Here we go. So this is the very first day, that one with Sarah took my photo, because there wasn't two people. If there was another person, we could have both been in the photo. So this is in vaguely chronological order. This is a family from Cheltenham. I don't know where these folks are from.
I'm not seeing the next slide.
Oh, you're not seeing anything?
Just
No.
the first slide, but the screen is doing something weird. It's,
Oh, no. Okay, what are you seeing now?
Now I see Alice and Micah.
yep.
Okay, I wanna, how do I go backwards? Oh, wait a minute. I'm gonna try it again. Let's try this again. Okay, so you see the first one? Is it moving kind of?
Not yet.
Oh, no. Anything happening?
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's the effects are so nice on my screen.
You can
Oh,
click.
wait a minute. No, I don't know, because I mean, this is my screen, so I don't know why.
Can you just advance them manually?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Sorry,
It's okay.
the effects were so much nicer when, okay, so this is first, and you can see, we still have the old message about COVID here.
Mhm.
And this is my handmade sign before we had any new signs. So the family from Cheltenham who came out, I think sometime in the beginning of the second week. Kids with their handmade signs, it's really sweet.
I can't see those.
No, we're just
Oh.
looking at you, Mary.
Oh no. Okay, I'm gonna try something else.
Are you sharing your whole screen or just a tab?
I thought I was sharing it.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh.
Oh, I think that's just on yours. Oh, well, I mean, it says on mine, I am screen sharing. Now, okay, you're seeing it. I think I'm just going to advance it and not do anything fancy. Okay, because that way
Yeah, it says it's Windows Live photo gallery, so maybe, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to see what happens if I just advance.
Okay.
Can you see that?
Oh, yeah, now we can see it.
Okay, so slideshow for some reason is not happy to do a slideshow. So I will manually do it. So this is a family who came out early days from Cheltenham. This guy had said he'd seen it on an email. Oh, because I always like to ask people how they find out about it if they're not church people. He worked for the city, and he said he saw it on some listserv.
Wow.
You never know when you start something where it's going to end up.
Right.
These are like another family that came out. I love the signs the kids make. I love how he spells matter, M-A-T-R.
That's the spelling of the future.
What?
That's the spelling of the
Do
future.
not want
Yeah.
to live in a world unsafe for Black.
And these kids were lovely. That little girl, that sign is bigger than she is. And then there's Ellis and Micah, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Libby Haas contingent came out. This is a gentleman who comes out regularly. His name is Jerry. I don't know if people.
Yeah, he's married to
Shelley?
yeah, Shelley Yanoff.
Yeah, that's right. My friend Dennis, he's a Vietnam era vet with his peace shirt. And these guys, Susan and Viv and the rest of the family come out regularly. I mean, of course, their house is right there, but I mean, they're great. And Viv made this sign about joining us, which is nice. The Wilkinson family and the dog. People often bring their dogs. Deborah Cooper, who some of you may know, is one of the Breathe meditation teachers. Bob Smith, who's with Germantown Friends Meeting, and he's also a longtime peace activist with the Brandywine Peace community. This is Major D. He's Major Demetrius Stanford with the Salvation Army. Came a number of times. Howard and Deb Kish Silver and their dog. I can't remember the name of his family's name. Melton, I think, possibly. This woman, Sharon, Terry Sharp, came from Burlington, New Jersey. And I mean, she'd seen it listed somewhere and drove all the way from Burlington just to be with us.
Wow.
Another family that came out. I want to say I focused on the families doing the photos because of the social distancing, it's hard to do group shots.
Mm-hmm.
So except for families. So I would have loved to have done a shot of like 35 people standing together, but we didn't want to do that. This is one of the neighbors and her kids, like near neighbor. And this is Friday, the last day. So this is a sign for and so we now have this in our marquee there. And
Anybody from other Unitarian churches from our area, like Restoration or the one in the suburbs?
No one from Restoration that I know of. I mean, they have their own on Thursday, which I've actually been meaning to go to because it's right after ours. But usually I'm so beat by the end of it that I just want to go home. And there's somebody who came who said he attends First Unitarian downtown, but he happened to work in this area, so he stopped by. Yeah. So, anyone have any questions? Discussion?
And well, too, do you want to continue? And if so, what could we do more to help other than show up and spread the word?
I think people want to continue. I mean, Sarah, you should say too, but I mean, people are coming out when
I'm sorry, what was the question? How long are we going to do this?
Yeah, if we want to continue, if we're going to continue, and if yes, what can the committee do besides come out?
I guess we might as well continue. I mean, it already lasted way longer than I thought it would, which I'm happy about. I don't know. I was thinking, are we going to do it like, is the summer the end of it? Like the end of the summer? Is that the end of it? Right now I'm going Tuesdays and Thursdays because I'm babysitting Tuesdays and Fridays because I babysit the other days. But when school starts, I'll actually be done earlier, so I could go every day or almost every day to support. But I don't know if I mean, there's no official reason to stop. We could go until it gets too cold, I guess. I don't know.
The heat hasn't stopped people.
No, the heat hasn't stopped, so we might end up standing out there. Yeah. Till November when the election happens. I don't know.
Well, and I feel like people want to keep doing it. On the days, when it's been like super hot, people have called me. Actually, somebody called me on one of the days that we canceled and who was there and said, "Are you coming?" I was like, "No, we canceled." And I even put a sign on the church or outside saying we're not going to be here. Because I think it's really filling a need for people. I think it's both as a result of COVID and a result of obviously the urgency of the situation and people feeling like they want to do something and not sure what to do, and providing a thing that people can do, I think is a really important service. It's a safe thing, both in terms of COVID stuff, also in terms of, there's no or practically zero likelihood of any violence. Obviously, it's, we've tried to make it family friendly, and you can see that from the kids, and also it's local, so people don't have to go somewhere and drive somewhere. To have something locally in the neighborhood, I think is really good. And for myself, like, I want to be doing things like in my neighborhood. I want to be building this movement in my neighborhood, and I'm also been starting to work with my local neighborhood association on Black Lives Matter stuff, because I think it is important to be where we are, to be talking to our neighbors, to be talking to people who are in our churches and our other organizations, and so that it's very, that we really connect with it on a personal and grassroots level. So I guess my feeling has been always, from week to week, like, if people still want to keep going, we'll keep going. you know?
Mhm.
I do. Somebody asked me, Susan Deering asked me this week, are you taking a vacation this summer? And so I've been thinking about it. You know, it's challenging to take a vacation these days, but I may want to get away for a week or so, in which case, you know, I'll make sure to coordinate with you, Sarah, and other folks about, you know, having somebody, you know, responsible.
Yeah, Susan and I said we would be.
Oh, that's
there.
right. We had you were there for that conversation.
Yeah, I was there for
Yeah.
that. Susan and I said we'll take care of it. You've been there every day. That's super impressive. So if you want a break, that's definitely a good idea. You know,
Thanks
so
for a record. No.
Yeah.
That might be a way the committee could support you. If you need to take a break, you just, you know, shoot an email to the ERC committee and we can step up and take days.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
But do people in the ERC have any ideas about what you would like to see happen, you know, with the vigil or kind of in general in terms of you know, how to, you know, continue this, you know, our support and, you know, visibility and, I mean, to me, it's so exciting, not only that our vigil is continued, but that the movement is still happening. Like today on Facebook, I saw there was like a youth march in Center City, like at noontime, around noontime. You know, there was the student thing not that long ago. I mean, it's like every weekend and during the week, but more on the weekend, there's stuff happening. And it's to me, this is very encouraging. And the fact that there were these places, 230 communities across Pennsylvania, and they counted more than 400 protests. And it may be that I mean, it's probably an undercount because, you know, a lot of things happen that nobody knows about. So it's, I feel like anything we can do to keep that momentum moving is good.
And of course, come join us if you can. I guess some people work till 6.
Yeah.
Or later or whatever. We've had, I think Jerry Whalen has come with a little chair too, because it can be a lot to stand for an hour.
It is.
So.
And I brought out, usually people kind of are pretty self-sufficient as far as what they need, whether it's a chair or water or whatever. But it was so hot it was either Friday or Thursday, I can't remember. But I went into the church and got out a jug of water that was in the refrigerator because I was really concerned that people might keel over. You know, we do need to be taking care of ourselves. And there's, you know, I'm still dealing with my after effects of my broken leg, and you know, I have back issues as well. So I will stand as long as I can, and then I go sit on the wall and hydrate and rest, and then, you know, come back. We also kill spotted and lantern flies while we're standing there. That's our secondary job.
We try. They jump. I have trouble catching them.
But it's very funny because there'll be a lull in the traffic and we're all looking at the sidewalk and think, oh, stop. Or they climb up the utility pole. But I have to say, it's really given me, and I think the people who are participating, a lot of energy. Because it's, you know, especially, it was actually one of the first things that I did, maybe the first thing that I did in terms of emerging from the COVID lockdown. Because I really, you know, I was being very careful, but I kind of made a calculation that, you know, I'm going to do everything I can in terms of minimizing my risk, but I feel like it's worth it. To go out and do this. You know, it's not like I want to go party or go to the movies or go to a concert or whatever, but to do this, it's worth whatever, you know, possible, because, you know, whenever you go out, you're increasing your risk. But I felt like it was really important for me in terms of my mental health and just my sanity in the world to do this.
And luckily it's outside. People are really good about wearing their masks. People are good about standing apart. People are cooperative with that kind of thing. Even though, like Mary said, some people do like to stand in traffic. That part's not good, but at least they're good about the masks. So. Yeah,
Sarah once said, God, if these were kids, my kids, I would be yelling at them.
I would scream at them, but they're adults.
You know, the elder, you know.
I'd be like, get out of the street right now. But you can't tell it does.
But I really do, it worries me because if we had an accident, it would be so horrible.
It would be horrible.
And yeah.
You're on mute, Susan.
Yeah, I'm
There
muted.
you go.
Oops, sorry. I'm trying to help, Susan. Sorry, you're muted. I won't touch it. All right,
We
don't
can't
touch
hear
it. I'm gonna unmute you. Oh, I can't unmute you, so now you have to touch it. Sorry. Here, I'm gonna allow people to unmute themselves. There you go.
Did you say that those signs are for sale?
Yeah.
They
They're-
are there.
They're $10 and they come with a yard stand.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever people offer, I'm really good with. We don't need to, if $10 is more than some, I'd rather see them out in the world than get $10
Yeah.
for every sign.
We ask for 10, but if people don't have it, we'll still give them a sign.
Good.
I guess I probably at some point wanted to go, but then I thought, oh, I don't know what day. And then here I find out it's every day,
Every weekday.
every weekday. So I'm guessing there are people that know that. And I was just kind of clueless about that. But I found it interesting where people were coming from because they weren't just neighbors or church members. And that would be kind of cool for the cars that go by to see where people are coming from. But I don't know logistically how to do that, you know, because then you'd have another sign that would say New Jersey, you know, or, but that was a real interesting, you know, inclusion of what you all are trying to do or what we are trying to do to track people from that far away, you know. That's pretty cool.
The woman from New Jersey may be somebody who attends our virtual services. There is a Black woman from South Jersey who I've never met, but who is very regularly attending our Sunday services.
Oh,
Her
okay.
name is Shelley.
No,
You
it's
said
not Shelley.
Sharon. It's not
Mhm.
Shelley, but she
I
has
heard just-
she has like 2 names.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the thing about which days because it has been a problem because I mean, it is kind of unusual that we're there day after day after day, you know. It's like, it's really a very persistent action. And sometimes people say, oh, I thought you were just here on Wednesday, or I thought you were just here on a certain day, Thursday. No, that's restoration. And someone came who was with another religious organization and said, well, you know, when all this started, we had a vigil, and that was it. They did one. And they're like, what does that do? You know, and I think people really are attracted because in part of the persistence and the kind of constant presence, because, you know, and, you know, sometimes the answer, you know, when people say, well, how long are you going to stay? And some people say, well, as long as it's necessary, you know, and, I mean, that could be a very long time, and I don't know that we're going to go into the winter, but who knows? And also with the heat, I mean, it's been, you know, over 100 real field temperature a couple of times with the humidity. And I remember coming out one day and saying to someone, God, it wasn't that bad. I said, you know, it's not that bad out today. And she said, well, it's not as bad as what we're protesting. So I think, you know, you can see the kind of people that are coming out, and so they, you know, they want to come out. And we have even though we can't talk that well because of the masks and the distancing and the noise from the street, we actually have a pretty good time out there, and there's a great sense of camaraderie and solidarity between ourselves as well as with people who are going by.
Yeah, it's rewarding to hear people honk and wave at them, and we see people, you know, lean out their windows and, you know, yell to support us and everything. So
Yeah.
that feels good.
I mean, the 2 words that I consistently hear people say are energizing and uplifting. And, you know, it's certainly better than sitting at home and being depressed by all the horrible things that we're seeing on the news. I mean, I watch the news too, but I feel like it's a kind of antidote. It's like, I can do something. no, I don't have to be sitting powerless at home thinking, democracy is coming to an end, or what, I can do something.
Yeah, I think it's like a morale booster, and we could all use that for people doing it and for people moving by.
And sometimes I think that, the trade-off is, too, with the COVID risk, is that I feel like, it's a boost to my immune system to have that kind of energy. So for whatever minimal, hopefully, risk, knock wood, I'm taking, to be out there.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say that I'm just inspired by what you've done, and I think my idea at the annual meeting was to make the ERC committee a committee of the whole, and you've really done it to make this effort to represent our congregation, and I'm very grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I think that's really, I hadn't thought about it that way, but, it's like, I think we have to be that, it can't be just, sectioned off, like ending racism is just one small thing. I really feel like it's, racism and white supremacy is really the problem in the United States, and because it hasn't been addressed, we have so many other problems, and it needs to be cleaned up once and for all. I really feel this very strongly, and keeps me motivated, and so great to have other people to be working with. I think we're also isolated, and to kind of have a group of people that you see consistently, that you feel supported by, have fun with, it's really sustaining. Yeah.
Margaret's trying to unmute herself.
Oh, all right. Did it work? Oh,
Oh, you had it.
she did it, and then, sorry. Try again, Margaret. I will stop.
There.
Okay.
I just had a question. I was wondering, in honor of John Lewis, if it would be appropriate to expand the messaging to promote the Voting Rights Act, Voting Rights Bill that's stalled in the Senate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we could have some signs about that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I cook dinner every night, so 5 to 6 I'm busy.
Oh, I thought you were offering us dinner.
No. Sorry. Gotta stay physically distanced, and our table isn't that big.
The COVID committee would not approve. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
We'll try to make that happen. I mean, I know also there's stuff in the Pennsylvania legislature that we might want to be calling attention to, and locally. I mean, I know Sarah has almost always has a sign that says Black students matter, and education. And Barbara, I know you've been very involved in the education stuff. So, are there specific things that we want to put out there, having to do with the school stuff?
If we talk about things, we have to make sure it's big enough. It has to be precise, because people are
talking about signs.
Yeah, I mean, with signs, it has to be like to the point.
Yeah, which is why the Black Lives Matter
like
is so
30 miles an hour. But we can still do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're just the sign that says Black students matter. It's very, to the point.
I have to make a new one. That sort of fell apart with time, but I used it a lot. So
you did.
You
definitely did. And we could just have something that says support the Voting Rights Act. Is that Margaret, you would think?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to condense it down to a sign, but
yeah,
especially with John Lewis's recent passing and all that he all he did throughout his life to promote voting rights, and
Yeah.
then we're going backwards in that regard as a country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Or even have a sign that says voting rights now, would be good.
Yeah.
Did he die? He didn't die of COVID.
No, he had pancreatic cancer.
Oh,
He had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He wrote, it's amazing, he wrote that op-ed for the Wall Street Journal and said, or the New York Times, and said, post this on the day of my funeral. I mean, he was able to write that close to his death.
Wow.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I also heard he met the people protesting outside the White House, even though he had been sick for a while. He still showed up.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter Plaza.
Yeah.
Across from at Lafayette Park.
Yeah.
Man, I'm just so happy that he lived long enough to see this last burst of organizing. I mean, to me, it's such a tribute to him.
Yeah.
Well, the sign that I've been carrying at a variety of places is Black Minds Matter and about the libraries and schools. And I got to say that to him at General Assembly in Portland, Oregon, when the Unitarian Service Committee honored him, and we had a bunch of people from our church. Well, Andrea Durham had the bracelets, Black Lives Matter, to Unitarian Universalists, and distributed on every seat in this whole auditorium. And then some of us got to pose with him, and I told him that the school libraries have disappeared in Philadelphia. And he said, Philadelphia, Mississippi?
Yeah.
So anyway, but then, yeah, but relating to the schools, because there will be no physical schools, we could possibly think about doing something about the students. And when the fall term begins, I mean, as a retired teacher, my immediate idea is you could give out homework assignments, but they might not come out to get them, but I don't know, having educational materials.
Well, one thing that I read recently was about the demand for, that all students have access to internet, because not all students do. I mean, what happens now if students don't have access to internet?
We were trying to get Comcast, or the district was trying to get Comcast to provide internet, since Comcast, it's based in Philadelphia and they make tons of money.
Yeah.
And but we gave out computers to everybody. Everybody has Chromebooks.
Okay.
but not necessarily Wi-Fi. They gave them a list of hot spots around the city,
Yeah,
but in many cases it was like a parking lot, you know? And I just can't see a child sitting there with a Chromebook too, right, in a bad area doing their homework. I mean,
no, yeah, when I saw that, I was pretty offended. The people whose idea that was would never have done it, so I don't know why they're asking someone else to do it.
Who is anyone working on this issue now?
Yeah,
I think the district is.
Yeah, but there's an outside of the district, because actually when the superintendent asked Comcast, they said no. He accepted that.
they said no.
Yeah. And he didn't pursue it further at that time. So there's an effort. I sent to the committee today from the Working Educators Caucus a list of things going on this week, demonstrations and contacting Comcast. So I'll send it to the other people here.
Yes, please.
Who I didn't send it to.
There's
And,
a virtual thing tomorrow, but I have to work. Sorry, I interrupted you.
yeah, that's quite all right. yeah, so I'll continue to forward what's going on in that kind of thing.
So are you saying that the effort to get Comcast to do it is still ongoing?
Yes.
Oh, good,
We
great.
kind of enlist pretty much the whole city to
And I thought I
every
saw some,
Comcast subscriber contacted them.
I thought I saw something from Height recently that he was going to make sure everybody had internet access. Oh, shoot. Sorry, Deb.
Well, he's there. Yeah, he's working on it. The Board of Ed is working on it, and all of us together can add pressure for sure. But one of the things that I've said in the time when my own high school lost its library, they threw away all the books and put in a few computers, and the students were quite adept at turning on the computer and getting to websites about music and sports and fashion. And my question is always, can you read a newspaper article and identify the bias? And that's a combination of your reading teachers, your English teachers, and a certified teacher librarian, which, those people are all laid off. So,
Deb, did you add
put
something?
effort in.
Sorry.
Okay.
Deb, did you want to say something?
Oh, it's out of sync right now, but when we were talking about signs, I couldn't unmute myself. I was just going to suggest even just having a sign that simply says vote might catch people's eye and be a little bit more succinct than trying to convey a more complex idea about the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah. Yeah, and a number of people have brought that up on the vigil. And people, I think when people bring their own signs, because in addition to the Black Lives Matter signs, almost always there's some people who bring their own signs. And voting is one of the topics that is pretty consistently there, which is really good. Sarah, wasn't there somebody who wanted us to do voter registration or something?
Oh yeah, somebody emailed and said we have these voter registration flyers, but there's no way to give out flyers to all these people driving by.
No.
There were a couple of people. Then there was somebody who asked us for $150. Some random guy came and said, "I'm Nigel, and here's some pictures of kids protesting. Can we have $150?" There are a couple random things. It's not like we have a budget, like Triva generously donated the signs, but anyway, so, but yeah, it's got, whatever we do has to be something that people can notice when they're driving without, stopping or whatever.
And for people who may know about that request, Barbara, you were very involved in that, about with the church in West Philly and stuff. And before Kent went on vacation, I spoke with them and we agreed that I would get back in touch with this man. And I did write to him saying, please get back in touch with me and we'll, because we, basically have some developments. And I never heard from him again. So that was the end of that for the time being. All kinds of things happen on the visual. It's amazing. It's like when you start something, you never know what's going to happen. And people are attracted in different kinds of ways.
Well, thank you. Thank you guys so much. It's 3:05. But does anybody have any last thing? Eileen, do you need to do? No? Okay.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yes. Did Parvati have anything in the chat? I didn't see anything.
No.
Okay.
There was nothing.
I hope you feel better, Parvati.
Yeah. Sorry. Sounds terrible. Bye-bye. I'm going to go.
All right.
But I would really like to get that stuff, Barbara, about the education stuff.
Yeah.
That would be great. And we could, share with people as we can on the vigil too. So. All right.
Mary, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.